Look at us. It's not even midnight. Man,
I was expecting to be here at midnight, actually.
Folks, I really, really thought that this was going to be another 1 a.m. waiting for some type of official announcement, the way that we had to do with Jackson Robinson. And Otega Owe at least dropped his news at like 7:30 p.m. this time last year. But man, that first one with Jackson Robinson, it was tough. It got a little out of hand here on KSR late night YouTube. So I'm very glad that it's just 9:51 p.m. our time. But big, massive. Why is Zoom action?
And we're here to talk about
There we go. Bang. Milan Momcilovic, Iowa State.
Action, not yet.
Iowa State star Milan Momcilovic has withdrawn from the NBA draft. A decision that I don't know if it was one that he preferred for the longest time, because he went into this draft process taking it very seriously, wanting to keep his name in the draft. But folks, the big bucks came calling, and I think, man, if you have the opportunity to take a handful of millions of dollars from some big-time university, I think you'd be pretty smart to take it, Zach Gagan, Jack Pilgrim, and Jacob Polachek. But your initial thoughts, Zach, I'm just going down the list. Your initial thoughts, Zach, on the big-time news tonight that Milan Momcilovic is a free agent officially.
Yeah, the best free agent on the market has officially hit it, I guess. He's finally available. So he pretty much drug it out until drug it out until the last minute. Basically, over the last 2 hours, it's been who's pulled out. Like you had the weird Billy Richmond situation with whatever was going on with
that was bizarre.
And then I feel like every 3 minutes a new guy, like I think Tyler Tanner just withdrew his name as well. So it's all kind of happening at the moment right now. And Milan was the big fish that everyone was waiting for. I think Tunde is still kind of out there in the ether, isn't he, at this point?
But leaning toward a return Jeff Goodman.
That could potentially shift things up a little bit as well. So, just massive news. It was kind of the expectation at this point. And I think the biggest thing that we'll note that came out of all the breaking news reports was that he has not committed to a college. He is still uncommitted. He's going to take his time, I guess, or at least a little bit with that process, maybe spend the next however long of trying to figure that out. And the contenders have come right out: Kentucky, Arizona, Louisville, St. John's, the same three schools. And then Arizona's kind of been latched on at the end there. But the same three schools we've been hearing about for feels like months now at this point. So, yeah, it's just going to come down to, I guess, who wants to give him the most money, who can offer the best role, and who can make the best of those two things work in one sweet harmony. So we'll see if it's Kentucky.
Jacob, what did you hear about the draft process with Milan? Workouts went very well for him. And this was something that he went into this process, as we talked often. We kind of got into it a couple times on phone calls where your intel was very, very good intel. I trusted it entirely. It was, dude, Milan's staying in the draft. This dude wants to keep his name in. But I think as time continued to go on, it was just one of those deals where it was like, man, yes, I'm going to go 35th in the draft. That sounds great. I could, sign a 2-year guarantee and it'd be nice, but nothing compared to the numbers that are being thrown around right now for him as a free agent. I think that was the final deciding factor for him in making this withdrawal deadline decision.
Yeah, I will say that the money has gone significantly up since that pre-draft, since he was going into the pre-draft process and throughout it all. Milan, his intention was to stay in the draft, but it got to a point where the money was so high from these schools, from these colleges trying to get him back, that it really made no financial sense for him to stay in the draft unless he was locked in on being a professional. And when you can come back to college for some of the money that we're hearing, and I'm sure we're going to get into that, it made it a no-brainer decision. So, yeah, my intel early on was he was focused on the draft, and even as late as earlier today, I was hearing he wants to stay in the draft, but there comes a point where the money is just it makes no sense to turn that down.
So, I had heard initially that the number started at $5 million.
Whew.
Started that was just to get him in the door, to start the conversation, to hey, he's the best shooter in college basketball. He is a needle mover. I mean, the dude averaged 17 points a game, shooting 8 threes a game on 50% shooting from deep. That's
Pretty
a dude
good.
that he is a clear difference maker, like ceiling alterer for whatever program he decides to go to. 5 is the starting point. How high from there are schools willing to, like, if you
Five
can't
is not doing it anymore.
if you can't get to 5, sorry, bud, we're not even going to start the conversation. But since then, Jacob, let's throw it out there. What number have you heard had heard up to this point to just kind of just show how I think some of the public reporting from some of the national guys, I think they're being quite conservative with this because the numbers I've heard are maybe not as extreme as I've heard. Like I still have a hard time believing as extreme as some of the numbers I've heard on the back end of that. But in the middle there, what would you say the median is for the price tag on Milan Momcilovic?
Yeah, I would say 7 to 7.5 million is the number that's coming up most in conversations. And I will say that is not even close to the highest number that I'm hearing, but that's
Can confirm.
Goodness gracious.
what we hear in conversations. I would say the most sources and probably the best sources I talk to are hitting that 7 to 7.5 number as far as what Milan will command in college next year.
Zach, I don't think any player in the history of the sport has been worth $7 million, but with desperation, desperate times call for desperate measures. And I think that's kind of where we are with a player of his caliber. So what would he bring to the table for? We know Kentucky's desperate. I know on my end with certainty that Kentucky has been unbelievably aggressive. They have acted with a sense of not just aggression, but almost like a sense of desperation of, hey, we missed on Tyron Stokes. We gotta, and Jacob's gone.
There he goes.
There he is. We back.
Ah, dang.
We have to figure this one out. We have to get it close. What type of what is the team currently right now, and what can the team be in terms of ceiling if Milan Momcilovic ends up being a Kentucky Wildcat?
Well, the team as it is currently constructed is not. I mean, I think it's a pretty solid team. Honestly, I'm a big fan of the backcourt and Alex Wilkins and Zoom Diallo. I've said that many times. I like that we talked earlier in the week when you got Malachi to come back. That's huge. You locked down your starting center, potential all SEC guy in the paint. You got mixed in a couple of returning players. Like, I'm really high on what Cam Williams could potentially turn into next season. So I like the core pieces of kind of what they've got going on there. It did feel like there was a spot, the 4 spots still kind of, they've got a couple different options there, but it was that 3 spot where it's like, are you just kind of relying on Cam Williams to take a jump, or is Braden Hawthorne going to turn into a contributing level player after not playing basketball for a whole season? So I'm a big fan of Cam and what he's going to do, but it felt like there was, you maybe need a little bit of insurance just to kind of see what it can take. Like, can you take yourself to another level? Because I think as currently constructed, you're probably looking at a 25, 30-ish team in the country in terms of, the rankings. But if you add a Milan Momcilovic, you can talk yourself into being top 15, maybe even top 10 if kind of all the things break right with some of the guys taking their leaps. So you can see how that can all really translate into a positive or a really productive and successful team next season, because Milan is just, like you said, a dead eye shooter. 48.7% last season on 7.5 attempts per game.
Nutty stuff.
Good 2-point shooter as well. Like, can get into the lane and kind of knock down the mid range, can get to the rim a little bit as well. He's not going to do some of the other things. Like, he averaged 3.1 rebounds a game. Like, throughout his whole career, he's averaged 3.2 rebounds per game for Iowa State across 100 basketball games, and he's 6'8". So that's not why you're getting him, though. You're kind of getting him to be a gravity guy, someone who can sit on the perimeter and just chuck up shots, get you buckets however you want, help spread the floor, make life a little bit easier on everybody around you. And I think Zoom Diallo and Alex Wilkins would love to have a guy that can kind of, not necessarily bail them out's the term I'm going to use, but maybe not the proper one, but like just a guy that you can have, like a Kobe Bryant, that's like, okay, things are breaking down. We just need someone to go get us a bucket because the offense is not working on this possession. Milan is a guy that can just step in and knock down a 26-footer, 28-footer just with a second on the shot clock. So I think he elevates the offense, pretty significantly, actually, if he's the guy that you slide into the 3. And then, hell, you can play Cam Williams at the 4. I don't know if you want to play Milan at the 4 because of his rebounding and defense isn't kind of up to par with the rest of the 4s in the SEC, but man, offensively, he changes everything, and he's like a good player that you want under Pope because he's going to get him looks. I think that's the main thing. You get this guy as many looks as he wants, and if you're paying him $8 million or whatever it's going to be, you got to give him as much looks as he wants. So, but I do think it's interesting that he could potentially have 2 years as well. So I don't know how much that's been baked into these conversations as well, or if you all have any tidbits you want to add to that. But potentially with the 5-5, if that passes, which it sounds like it's going to, he can have 2 more college seasons because that will he'll kind of be grandfathered into that as well. So, but he elevates the offense immediately if he ends up choosing Kentucky, and he has said he would be a good fit too. He's on record saying that.
He's also on record saying that the 5-5 doesn't matter to him, but also the reason he's also on record saying that he wants to stay in the draft. And like, we're seeing what money does to decide these conversations and these decisions. So if we're having $8+ million conversations and deals in place for year one, and then he matches that production that we're all expecting him, and he can get another $8 million a year deal the following season, odds are pretty darn good that he's going to come back for that season too, because he's not going to make it.
He'd still be in the 35 range in the draft anyways.
He is going
maybe
to be
a little bit higher, but still not making that caliber of money.
He's going to be from the 25th pick to the 40th pick from now till the end of time. Like, there's that is going to be his draft range for good, and $8 million isn't touching any of that. So money will talk. I do think that the 5-5 is definitely something to watch, that we could be getting 2 years of Milan Momcilovic if that happens. But we got to get there first, Jacob. The schools in discussion right now: Kentucky, Louisville, St. John's, Arizona. I had heard on my end, I reported this on KSR Plus, that I had heard that it was a Kentucky versus Louisville battle, and everybody else was on the outside looking in. However, I do think that Koa Pete's decision to keep his name in the draft has created a little bit of a wild card there with Arizona, because they do have they were gathering the funds to try to make a Koa return work, because I think when they signed him and as the year went on, they were just never expecting him to come back for another year. And then once the reality hit of, oh, shoot, we might need to gather funds to bring back a Koa Pete, I think that started kind of putting them in scramble mode, and now they have some funds, but do they have those types of funds for him? Still need to see it to believe it in that regard, but Arizona is definitely more of a threat today, this very second, than they were a couple hours ago, and Koa was still deciding whether to keep his name in the draft or withdraw. So I think it is a 1A, 1B battle of Kentucky and Louisville, with Arizona somewhere behind, and then St. John's somewhat behind there. What is your intel saying about the latest on Milan Momcilovic?
Yeah, that sounds pretty similar to what I'm hearing. To add on to that, I will say that from what I'm hearing, and you hear this in a lot of recruitments, NIL is not going to be the primary factor in his decision. To me, it seems like we're at a point where all these teams have hit the buy-in price. They're all in the same ballpark, and now it's about what's the best fit for him, where can he make the NBA, and where can he be the most productive next year. I know you guys are already getting ready to talk about 2027 stay-go decisions. I'm not there yet. Let's get through this recruitment.
Are people in the chat talking about that?
I'm not ready to start talking about five for five stay-go decisions for next year. Right now,
is Milan Momcilovic coming back to Kentucky 27-28, Jacob? You need to put your money where your mouth is right now.
We're not there yet. But if Kentucky is the choice and things go right, like, that's a guy that's going to be looking to stay in the draft. So, I think that where he can go to get in the best position to be drafted next year and be a potential first-round pick is the school that he's going to choose. He's looking at, where can I get drafted? Because all these schools, frankly, have money.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish we could, like we did with sources say for the Jackson Robinson decision, we just started getting off the rails and tried staying on as long as possible and got as ridiculous as imaginable. Don't want to do that this time around, but I kind of am hoping that Tunde Yesufu makes his decision final before we wrap this thing up. I don't
Just
know.
Talk about it anyways.
I don't know how long I'm willing to go with that, but it is something I'm kind of secretly hoping for, that we can talk about that in real time. But Tunde, is also another name to keep an eye on. Zach, somebody we know Kentucky has been monitoring for a very long time, somebody who he called his dream school out of high school, that, from Benin, said that, he grew up watching Kentucky basketball games and said, like, hey, that, I grew up on Coach Cal, grew up on the Kentucky Wildcats, loved it. I think when he came out of high school, I think the money, they were kind of going for a different value. It got, in terms of, they found Tunde as a comparable player to X, and they didn't see the money matching up with what they could have gotten elsewhere in the portal, so they ended up pivoting and not going all in. But they have always loved Tunde Yesufu. Now that he could potentially be a free agent available, what do you think of that potential fit if Milan does not work out for the Cats? Is that somebody that you would like to see in a Kentucky Wildcat uniform? And, any other potential threats that you have heard or seen there in the mix for Tunde Yesufu?
Yeah, Tunde, another guy that, Jack, you and I saw play in Indy at EYBL. It's just like all these kids from yesteryear are now back in the portal, and we're looking at them again and trying to dissect their games. But I mean, Tunde's a great player. I was a big fan of him out of high school. I wanted Kentucky to kind of go all in on him and grab him. I think he could probably be a better option to stay in the draft compared to Milan, at least. Like, if I were him, I probably would have stuck in the draft, but he can command so much money at the college level, and he could probably propel himself. He's probably more of an option to actually really solidify himself as a first-round pick in college next season compared to Milan. So, but he's not the level of shooter. Like, not even, he's literally, I think he's a 29.3% three-point shooter last season. So, like, he's not going to fill that hole that you're maybe looking for, but he can still maybe play that 3 spot. So he's still kind of the same positional wise, but the skill sets are just going to be completely different. So it's just a matter of, what is Mark Pope? Well, it might not be up to Mark Pope. Like, he might just have to, throw as much money at whoever can pick first. But, they would provide like vastly different things for Kentucky. But I'm a big fan of Tunde. I think he'd be a great fit at Kentucky. Like, that's another guy that you can give the ball to a little bit, play on the wing, take some pressure off of the main guys. But, if you're asking me personally for a fit wise, I think Milan would just be better for the 3-point shooting, because Mark Pope even told, I believe it was Daryl Bird just the other day down in Florida, saying that he wants to get back to that 35 3-pointers mark. You're probably not going to get there if you're starting, if 4 of your starting guys are Alex Wilkins, Zoom Diallo, Tunde Yesufu, Malachi Moreno. You're probably not going to get to 35 3-pointer attempts a game. So if that's what he wants to do, Milan's your guy. But I mean, Tunde's a great player. Like, that's not even like a consolation prize. Like, that is still a prize, like a top tier gold medal prize, if Kentucky could find a way to draw him in if he does end up returning to college, which if I were him, I wouldn't. I would just stick in the draft, but that's just me.
On that note, I in terms of fit and scheme and why Kentucky makes so much sense for Milan specifically, I wanted to throw some numbers at you, Zach, and get your take on them for Milan.
Okay.
They're kind of just they really are nutty.
I thought it was going to be a bad thing.
No, the advanced synergy stats for Milan: unguarded catch and shoot 3 number 54.8%, dribble 3 49.3%, transition 3 43.9%. And it's like, that's even like
43.
Oh gosh, man, that what's going on there? He's a 44% 3-point shooter in transition.
Who was Kentucky's
threes.
best 3-point shooter last season? Do we even know what the percentage point was? Probably
has to be
somebody
Colin.
in the 30s.
Has to be Colin.
Yeah, you're right.
Handoff threes, 48.3%. Off-screen threes, 45.5%. I mean, that dude was built in a factory to play for Mark Pope in the Kentucky Wildcats. My understanding is they have been using the Kobe Brea pitch for him, saying, hey, look at the film. Look at how we used him and turned this guy who wasn't on any draft boards into a legitimate draft pick and now playing for the Phoenix Suns. This can be you, except even better. What any of those numbers jump out at you? I think the unguarded catch and shoot at 55%, I think, is the one that makes my head go.
Well, the transition one's the best one, I think, because that's the one, like, 43% is still amazing. Like I just said, Colin Chandler was the best shooter on last season's team. He was at 41%. If Milan Momcilovic just screaming down the floor and he's hitting transition threes, like that's what you want. Like the transition three, when you're maybe have a disadvantage, like those are huge momentum shifting shots. Like if you're a guy that can even catch and shoot in transition, like just spray to the corners. If you've got, a guard with you, if you can hit 43% of your transition threes, like you're going to make Mark Pope's offense kind of more exactly like more what he's looking for. Like he's going to want to try and run up and down the floor. Like he's kind of talked about that. He's got better creators with Zoom and Alex Wilkins. So he's going to want to try and push those guys up, get his, role players and specialists into the spots that they need to be for Milan. I think he's just going to be in a great opportunity to, if he's hitting 40, if he hits 40% from three in transition threes next season or wherever he is, like, especially if it's Kentucky, he'd become an instant fan favorite, because I can already imagine Rupp Arena now like going crazy whenever he's loading up a transition three and Kentucky's already on like an 8-0 run or something. Like those are game breaking type plays. So that one definitely stands out because that's still an insane number. And transition ones usually, you're running a little bit too. So those are not like clean set threes more often than not. They might be a little bit if you're sitting on the corner, but for the most part, that's a great number. All of those numbers are above 40%, which means he is an elite shooter.
We're talking elite and otherworldly. Like that's the window that we're talking. We're not even like good to great territory. We're like, hey, this is the best shooter in the world right now in college basketball to varying degrees. We got a text from one Stephen Peak, who is apparently back from his vacation. Thank you all for doing this. I guess I should have said I'm back from vacation. What Stephen doesn't realize is that he's fired and that we've been doing all of these shows without him. And the first couple, Jacob, more than anybody, they were not pretty. We struggled. We struggled.
You're dialed in right now.
But we have mastered this to the point where, Stephen, you should probably just quit now. Like, you're done. We've
tell him to start making the lower thirds. We'll do all the other fun stuff.
No, I got all of us see this
Jack
beautiful
did the lower thirds
although
yes.
I will say I don't know how to make the names not clip at the very bottom with all the
we also have no idea how to put three of us in boxes. We never figured that out. So we're like
here are our options right now. We got this as an option.
Yeah, so that doesn't work very well.
We got this as an option.
See, that one's fine with me, but Jacob down there.
See what we're talking about? Like
So Steven has to save us for that because
See, we're struggling. So Steven, that's if your job is saved, this is the only reason why your job is saved, but because we just can't get the camera parts. But once we nail that, buddy, you're cooked. You are absolutely done for. Jacob, any other draft decisions today that stood out to you? I think, as Zach mentioned to open the show, the one of Billy Richmond, who kind of kept his name in the draft and then ended up pulling out and staying with Arkansas. I think that was probably the most fascinating decision, but we got Amari Allen withdrawing to return to Alabama. That's a big one.
Yeah, that's big.
And then Tyler Tanner returning to play for Vanderbilt for one more season. A couple other biggies, but which one stood out to you?
You mentioned a lot of them. I'll go Stojakovic, Illinois. I think that's a really big one because this whole video is about Milan Momcilovic, and that
Jeremy Fears just withdrew from the draft.
There we go. That's another big one.
Okay. Stojakovic is the big one because that basically takes Illinois out of the Momcilovic sweepstakes. So as far as Kentucky goes, besides Momcilovic, that's probably the biggest one from today. So that's the one I'll point to. But yeah, huge day of withdrawals, and now I think all eyes are on Tunde because there aren't too many out there left.
Yeah, Tunde. We're drawing this sucker out, hoping for a final decision on Tunde, but he just won't freaking get over himself and make a decision. Come on, man. Do it for us. Do it for us. Don't do it for the millions of dollars on the line of your professional dreams.
Call him right now.
I got in trouble for texting him the first time.
Jacob, do you mind? Do you mind just calling him? You clearly have a good relationship with him.
Yeah.
Hey, Tunde, you staying in?
You're live on Rapid Reaction.
You're live on KSR's Rapid Reaction. Are you committing to Kentucky? Let us know.
Zach, any others that jumped out to you today on draft withdrawal deadline day? I hate the word withdrawal.
Well, when you say it like a fool like you do, it probably is not a fun word to say.
It's just
I was like
withdrawal.
You're drawing it out is what you're
withdrawal.
doing. I think Tyler Tanner coming back to Vandy is pretty notable. Well, honestly, Amari Allen, like those two, just for SEC purposes, are huge because Amari Allen, I felt like was every time I read a draft board, he was 20-ish, somewhere in that range. So I was kind of shocked to just see him come back. I think he's going to have a huge season at Alabama. So he's someone to keep an eye. Him and Brandon Garrison, like watch out. That could be an interesting duo in the SEC next season. But then Tyler Tanner is just a stud, being kind of not necessarily unprecedented, but you don't see many 6-foot guards like him that are as good on both ends of the floor, or at least as impactful in terms of some of their counting stats and stuff as Tyler Tanner. So those are two teams that Kentucky will have to face in Vanderbilt and Alabama, and they've got two guys that could potentially be first-round picks next season. So the SEC is still going to be good. And then you had the whole, we could talk about Florida. Their entire front court pulled out of the draft and returned, so they're going to be good again as well. But the SEC is just there's going to be plenty of talent. It's nice to see some of these guys pulling out of the draft though and coming back to college because it does make it more fun and exciting. And I'm an NBA fan, but I don't think I probably won't be watching many Tunde Yesufu minutes in the NBA next season if he decides to stay. So I would, I guess, prefer him to come back if I'm asking from the heart, not from the brain. But the SEC ones are notable just because Kentucky's going to play those guys again, so those will be fun. And Amari Allen's really good. He could have gone in the NBA this year, so that was kind of a shocker on that one.
I thought I had some scoop to break while we were doing this, but I don't think so. Somebody kind of poured a little bit of cold water on the Tunde talk that made me think that we could be getting an NBA pivot back, but kind of just said it's still wonky. It's gonna
still wonky.
An
hour 45 minutes until the
hour 43 we have left on Tunde's decision. What about Malik? Big leak there in Fayetteville. As weird as the Billy Richmond decision was, I think we all expected him to come back, but Malik Thomas was the one that we kind of said would go back and forth and could really decide, just how serious Arkansas is as a SEC contender. Zach, what do you think he ends up doing?
He's another guy that I've seen him. Well, he's more in the back end of the first round from what I remember on the NBA mock drafts. I was looking at consensus like in the background of the first. But, you could still get some more guaranteed money that way. Malik always kind of struck me because he's been a 5-star for a while. He just always kind of struck me as the typical Cal guard who just wanted to go pro immediately. And I think you can kind of easily see a world where Malik Thomas just turns in, is one of the typical Calipari guards who goes like a 20th in the draft and turns into an all-star in however many years. But if he comes back, then Arkansas is going to also have a very good team. And Billy Richmond coming back is huge. I like Billy Richmond's game, even though he's not like super skilled, I should say. He's talented, not like super skilled, but he's just really fun to watch. But Malik Thomas, he has kind of the things that NBA teams are looking for, like bigger guard, can shoot a little bit. So I would not be shocked to see him stick his name in the draft. But if Arkansas has the money, I'm sure they can probably still outpay whatever the 28th pick in the draft will get in an NBA contract this year.
Well, still
not going to happen, is it, Jack?
Still no Tunde decision. I think we got to start wrapping this thing up. And I know as soon as this damn show ends, Tunde's going to make his announcement. We're going to go, oh, man, I wish we could have talked about Tunde.
Well, if he just sticks in the draft, then it won't matter,
That is true.
So now we got to root for that.
We got a couple of reports. Adam Zagoria said, I'm told Milan Momcilovic will most likely decide his landing spot over the weekend sometime. And Aaron Torres says something comparable I have heard on my end that Milan, yes, we know that the money it's a lot. We do, but in terms of the attention and the drama of all of it, he has no interest in any of that. Like, nobody associated with Milan, they just want to... They understand the business side of things, but also they just want to make a decision and get it over with. So I would not expect a big, long, drawn-out visit process and all that stuff. We've heard that for a long time, but I heard that again tonight, post-withdrawal decision from somebody close to Milan. So that is, I would not expect it to drag out long. The Adam Zagoria report of over the weekend, I hadn't heard that myself, but it lines up with the punctuality that is expected to come with Milan's decision. Anything else that you would like to say on Milan, Jacob, before we get out of here?
No, just I put up a story on KSR Plus as we started this. I think this has a case, and I'd probably make that case that this is the most important recruitment of the Mark Pope era at Kentucky. This is huge. The Tyron Stokes recruitment was big, but at that time, you had plenty of options to pivot to. At this time, there are not a ton of options to pivot to after Milan. There's really not any besides if you want to say Tunde, and that's probably a decision around the same time. So this is the guy. This is the most important recruitment of the Mark Pope era. It helps that you're going against Louisville. That makes it even more important. So all eyes are on Milan Momcilovic, and this is a big one for Mark Pope.
Do you agree with that, Zach? Do you think it's the biggest recruitment of the Mark Pope era?
Every recruitment moving forward with Mark Pope with a top guy is going to be the biggest recruitment of his time here at Kentucky until he does land that kid. So, yes, it definitely is. I mean, Stokes was, but you missed on Stokes, so now it's Milan. Like you kind of have to get. I mean, yes, you have to get him if you want to live to the standard. You got to get him. So, I agree with Jacob. Good take.
We will see. We will see. Still no official decision from, I believe, the last two that we are waiting on are Malik Thomas and Tunde Yesu. So we will see what happens there. We're still staying up, and we'll be on KS board following along and gossiping about all the nonsense over there. So make sure you go subscribe there. Make sure you're subscribed right here on the KSR YouTube channel. We have 1,500 people watching with us right now. Thank you to all of you watching and our absolute nonsense, especially the Louisville haters. This I lost his name somewhere here, but there's a Louisville troll somewhere in here. Hope you have a horrible night. And yeah, that's that. So for Jack, for Zach, for Jacob, appreciate you guys joining us. And Steven, sorry, your job's gone. We're nailing this producing thing. So hope it's been a fun ride, but you're a goner. We'll see what happens with Milan Momcilovic. Keep us following along, and we'll be back next time for another rapid reaction. Sources say Zoom action
coming soon, but with Frank, Frank.
Is it gonna be a big Frank one?
Yeah, Big Frank.
We'll do another Here Comes the Boom crossover as well, but we'll do that very soon. But until next time, we'll see you then. Go Cats.